Okay everybody, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to cover the Otomo clan, and it's going to be the rise and fall, of course. So we're going to cover the best scenario, and then while I'm in the best scenario I'm going to cover the best things, the strengths of the clan in this game, some of the weaknesses, and then I'll cover the worst scenario, which is usually the one where they're about to be wiped out, about to fade away. And well, I might do a follow-up video for it as well, but that remains to remains to be seen, right? We'll see how long this one goes. So, the Otomo clan, the best starting scenario is actually a couple of them. This is one of those clans, kind of like the Miyoshi. You're probably gonna, and if you guys haven't seen the Miyoshi, it's also up on the channel. The Otomo clan has like a period where they're just very, very powerful. You know, a nice 15, 20-year period. So, in my opinion, their best starting date is 1560, Battle of Okayazama, and you could really go all the way up to 1577. You know, the argument can be made. Honestly, the argument can be made even farther, but I think 1560, let's say to 1572, 77 at the most. This clan is very, very strong. They're at their height of their power. And as you guys can see in the map, you can see the very clearly the reason why. Just like the Miyoshi and a lot of other clans, the reason that the Otomo kind of fall off is because of the rise of other clans. So 1560, they're at their height, and then as the years roll by, the Mori, of course, wipe out the Imago, and so they become a threat, a next door neighbor, a huge threat. And you have the rise of the Shimazu clan, of course. So by 1582, the Shimazu have already got most of southern Kyushu after winning that battle against them. So I recommend 1560. And like I said, your mileage may vary. You may find 1567, 1572. I'd say, like I said, 1560. So let's look at that scenario and go through. So here we are in 1560, Battle of Okayazama. And right away, just looking at the map, you can see that I mean, look at all the territory that you have. You know? And, you know, it can be a double-edged sword, but it is very much a strength because of the fact that your neighbors are still relatively small and weak. You know, the Shimazu still haven't started conquering just yet. They will be, sure. The Chosokabe still haven't taken over their island, and the Mori, while they are a big threat, they still have to finish off the Imago clan. So you have easily the most strength among your immediate neighbors, and this means a lot of things, okay? This means that your muster power, of course, is going to be insane. You have 8 castles total, to be more specific. So 8 castles total, which I think is almost a third of Kyushu. You know, just a third of Kyushu is already under your control. Kind of crazy start. So this means that you're easily going to be able to muster soldiers right away and just bully whoever you want. Not to mention you have 2 small allies here who you can, you know, turn into vassals or use their power as well to help you march. And speaking of borrowed power, the Otomo have, let me see, I think they have about 6 tribes. I'm going to count them right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. This one right here. 5. So you can muster about a good 6 to 7k extra soldiers just in tribe units. Now, of course, your domain is large, it's disjointed, but you could summon them in each region to bolster your numbers. And again, most of your neighbors are only at about 2 to 3,000 tops by themselves. So you're easily able to just bully whoever you want. I mean, and also, since your domain is so wide, this is one of those forces, just like the Miyoshi, who has a lot of freedom. So what I mean by that is, just simply put, while there is a case to be made for, okay, this is the most efficient way to play, this is your sandbox. You know, that's the purpose of the game. It's your sandbox, you can do what you want. And when you play as these forces that are kind of scattered about and strong, you have the power to just kind of develop the game as you want, as you see fit. So we could head over here, and invade the Chosokabe, take care of them before they become a problem, maybe split the island with the Miyoshi. You have the strength to charge across right here, form an invading force, and invade the Mori. Maybe tackle them head on, maybe consolidate northern Kyushu, go for the whole island, maybe go down here and get the Shimazu recruited, get the musket power that the Shimazu clan offers. I mean, you have a lot of options that a lot of other forces just don't have sometimes, because just by virtue of their starting point. They can't, there's only a few options available to them, and that's all they can do. The Otomo don't really have to worry about that. They have such a big domain that you can go just pretty much anywhere on the western side of Japan if you think about it. I mean, you could really do some crazy things, which is great for replayability and stuff like that. Now, it is kind of, big domain. It can be a drawback, and I should have said this up front, but honestly, this is kind of an intermediate, if you had to assign a skill level, I'd say this force is kind of intermediate because of the domain. You can get bogged down. This is one of those forces where you could be attacked and get bogged down defending, and then before you know it, you get attacked by somebody else, and you haven't kept up with your alliances, and it can kind of unravel on you if you don't have some type of a game plan. You don't have to have, in my opinion, a laser focused game plan, but you have to have some kind of goal that you're working towards as you're playing. If you take your eye off the ball as this force, you can kind of unravel. You can get in a situation where you just get picked apart and you don't know what happened, and you've lost 3 or 4 castles, and you're just like, this is a terrible force. Why did I pick? Let me switch to somebody else. It can kind of get to that point if, like I said, if you take your eye off the ball. But for the most part, this, like I said, you're so strong in this starting date that you're allowed a lot of mistakes. You can make plenty of mistakes, and you'll be fine because you're just so much stronger than everybody else. Now, beyond just the domain and the range and the castles and everything, if we get into the specifics, okay, this force has one really good policy. Well, let's start with Soren, actually. Let's look at Soren, because Soren's pretty good. Oh, he still hasn't changed his name yet. Yoshishige Otomo. Yoshishige is pretty good. I mean, his stats are balanced. The best part that I like about him, his stats are just solid. Everything's solid. Concerted attack, soldier reduction damage. Flattery means that sometimes you can get forces, turn them into vassals, which, because of your starting point, again, you're so much stronger than your neighbors, you probably are going to get special submissions. You might be able to turn a couple of these forces into vassals if you want. I mean, if you don't want to flat out conquer them, it's, it is up to you. Now, the thing that I like the most about the Otomo, in my opinion, okay, is the way of the Otomo. This policy is crazy. Okay, so this policy right here that the Otomo have, Christian, I'm not even going to attempt to say that with my broken English, but the unique Otomo policy, right, allows all your churches to give you 1,000 crops. So churches and temples by rule already give you commerce. So this slaps on 1,000 per. And it also changes your temples into churches within your territory. And then, of course, you get +1 loyalty to all progressive officers because, churches, Christianity, all that stuff. So this is insane, getting 1,000 extra crops. Now, it wouldn't be crazy if you didn't have, if the designers didn't think of this. But when you start to look at your territories, your counties, you start to realize that the Otomo are already set up to get plenty of churches and temples. So you can see there they've already got 2. I believe they have access to 6 total, actually. There's already 4 right there. So just next to your capital, Funai Palace, Funai Palace is an insane territory. But just next to, between Funai Palace and Uzuki Castle, you have access to 4 churches already. So that's 4,000 extra crops, which of course is supplies and muster power. That's the main, for me, that's the main draw of Yoshishige. Beyond his balanced stats, everything else is balanced, but his uh, the Otomo's unique policy is just very, very strong, and that applies for the future. So as you start conquering territories, all your churches double. You're not just getting commerce from churches and temples, you're getting commerce and crops, which in turn means troops. It's just bonkers, in my opinion. It's just totally bonkers. Now, looking at the other officers in this force, there's only two, but they are amazing. So the two best generals, Akitsura, better known as Dosetsu the Demon, and Shigetada, who I think becomes known as Bungo's God of War. His tactic is literally called that, but I believe that's what he's known as well. These two guys are pretty much the spearhead of the army, and they are, far and away way stronger than almost anybody around you. Outside of the Shimazu clan and Shimazu clan down here in the south, and the Ryozoji clan right here, those two guys are pretty much, like I said, they're the spearheads. They're the strongest guys in your force, and for good reason. Both of them, their tactics are essentially the same. One deals damage to soldiers and your defense decreases, while the enemy's defense decreases, and the other one increases your defense while it's dealing damage. So it's pretty much the same. The damage output is pretty much the same, and one increases their defense when they deal it, and the other one decreases the enemy's defense. One thing I should say is that Shigetada joins 1 year after Okehazama. So if you're playing the scenario 1560, you don't see Shigetada yet. He's going to join 1 year after. He joins actually at 14, which is kind of crazy, but also kind of good, because if you get captured or something, hey, you don't have to worry about him getting executed or something, Outside of that, between these two, the thing that really distinguishes them to me is that Akitsura has Avatar of Lightning, which allows you to remove confusion from your allied units, which is kind of crazy. So if your units get confused or something, you can instantly bring him over. Hopefully he's already there, right? You're anticipating the confusion. But you can bring him over, and he can remove the confusion condition and just erase it. So, I talk about confuse abuse on this channel all the time, because confuse is basically point and click removal. It's that strong, it's that overpowered. Akitsura basically has point and click recovery. So if you can anticipate your unit to get confused, you can have him ready to go to recover units. And it does say units, so you can just keep using it. So if you're unlucky enough to fight a battle where you have two guys with confused on the other side, and you have this guy here, he can, remove the confusion back to back. There's no limit on it, which is, it's just crazy. I want to see more traits like this. I really want to see more things like this explored, but it's a give and take, because it is situational. It's not always going to go off. It's not always going to work. Most of the time it's going to be dead, but when it does go off, it's going to be crucial. It's going to be game breaking. So now, outside of these two guys and Yoshishige, the rest of the Otomo force is kind of mediocre. I mean, I hate to say it, but they're just kind of mediocre. It's what you'd expect from any other force, honestly. I mean, most forces, that's how it is. There's thousands of officers in this game. One of the things that's kind of brutal that stands out to me among these guys is that there's a lot of interfere. And for those of you who don't know, interfere is the worst tactic in the game. Let me find somebody who has it. Because all it does is lower mobility. So that's it. You lower an enemy unit's mobility. So it's essentially pretty useless. It's just a blank tactic. For some reason, the Otomo have quite a few officers that have it in their force, in their ranks. It really hurts this officer here, Miorin. Otherwise, outside of interfere, she's not terrible. Her traits are good: gunnery and tactics, Musket drill as a conservator. I mean, she's got some stuff there, but interfere, it just, in my opinion, it just buries you as an officer. It really does bury you, because you basically don't have a tactic. You'd have to. Okay, that's enough of that. I could talk about interfere all day. It stresses me out how useless this tactic is. Anyway, so yeah, outside of your main two, outside of your big two, and your daimyo, of course, it kind of falls off for this clan, and it falls off kind of dramatically. There's just nothing really else to see. It's just kind of middling at best, and I really wouldn't even say middling. So and another thing too, now that I'm talking about interfere, I don't know if you guys noticed, but nobody even has confuse in this force. So not only are you stuck with officers who have these blank useless tactics, you don't even have a single officer with the best tactic in the game, which is confuse. Confuse is, like I said earlier, it's just point and click removal. So usually every force has at least one person. Even if they're not great, they have one person who can at least confuse enemy units. I don't know why, but the Otomo don't have even one. So, and not only do they not have one, they have 3 with interfere. So brutal, in my opinion. Now, of course, you got to take all this with a grain of salt, because this is just a start. You're just starting out, so like I said, you're still the strongest guy. You're the biggest kid in the yard, so you can select and target people and go after people who are, just for those tactics. You can target people, go get some officers who are better, go get some confused guys. I mean, you can fix all your problems, but we're just looking at it from a starting point of view, right? So that covers pretty much their best scenario. Like I said, all their strengths, it's just a lot of muster power. You have 2 guys who are absolute killers, killer generals, and your neighbors are still trying to get off the ground, and so 1560, like I said, this is the one that I recommend if you want to have experienced the Otomo clan at their height. And you can play, a few of the other years after that. Like I said, you can go up to 77, in my opinion. You could make the case that even 82 is not terrible. But let's talk about them at their fall, at their weakest, their absolute worst, absolute worst scenario. So oh man, it's always painful to go from the very best to the very worst. So the very worst scenario for the Otomo clan, this is near the end, when they're about to be, I think, absorbed by the Toyotomi regime. Somebody correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. 1591. So this is after they've lost to the Shimazu. They've kind of fractured away. The Dosetsu, the demon, has moved on. The god of war, what's his name? I'm slipping on his name. Your 2 best generals are gone, is the point I'm trying to make. And not only have they left, but almost everybody else has gone away at this point. And everyone else has gotten stronger as time has gone on. Like I said, the Shimazu clan is in full throttle. They're at their peak. You could say 1582 they're at their peak, but they're still just as strong here. And the Mori clan has pretty much no competition in this scenario. The Chosokabe has pretty much unified the island. There's no competition anymore for them as well. So all your neighbors, all your powerful neighbors, I should say, are a lot stronger at this point. Not only that, but all your former territories are gone. Only 3 castles to start. Down from 8. From 8 all the way down to 3. Of course, there's a huge, we're talking a big time jump here. But still, all the way down to 3. Your 2 best generals are gone. Now, the heir, Soren's heir, I'll give him this. He has Way of the Otomo. So this is the silver lining. As bad as he is, and his stats are bad, you still have access to Way of the Otomo, and you know what? You still have Funai Palace. which Funai Palace, to me, it's like Sunpu. You know, it's the Imagawas all the way over here. If you've seen my Imagawa live stream, Sunpu Palace is a massive territory with massive potential, and I showed that in that live stream, how incredibly strong one really good, you know, just how far you can get with one really good territory. Funai Palace is the same thing. It's still, you know, you still have it. It's massive in space and scope, and Usuki's not bad either. And between these two territories, with Way of the Otomo, right, you still have access to one church, one temple, and one church and one temple here. So you can still make use of your policy to get an extra 4,000 crops. Maybe. Because this is the fall of the Otomo, and I mean, the clock is ticking, you know, right from the jump. Now, looking at the officer corps beyond Yoshimune, that's the name, that's Soren's heir. You have one good officer, Chikatsugu. He's actually really good. You know, his stats are not bad. 89 Valor. He has Rapid Assault to make good on that Valor, to deal damage. On the offensives, not terrible. You know, he's pretty decent. But outside of him, it's not good. Mancho's not too bad either. One good thing about Mancho, I think he's the only officer in this force that has networking at this point. So there's always that chance that you'll recruit somebody somewhere. That's what I love about networking in this game. But like I said, beyond these two, it just falls off. Once again, it nosedives now. Which many forces at their end, I mean, it's gonna look like this. You know, it's gonna look rough. So, and I'll say this position still isn't that bad. You know, the thing that makes this so difficult playing the Otomo at their fall is just that their neighbors have caught up to them and surpassed them in power. Like I said, the Chosokabe they've got half the island here. The Mori clan is going to become in full force. You know, whether or not their officer corps is the same, it's no longer as good as it used to be, but it doesn't matter. They're a huge titan right next to them. And the Shimazu, you know, the Mori clan are a huge titan with tons of soldiers. The Shimazu are the inverse. They may not have a ton of troops or a ton of territory, but they have killers on their team. And your two top generals are long gone at this point. So, like I said, the only silver lining that you have is that your territory is still capable of producing a lot of soldiers. So if you can make some miracles happen in your battles, then you know, maybe you could put something together. But that's about it. Outside of that, this is a very difficult starting position. I wouldn't try it unless you're looking for a challenge. I mean, beyond the, I'd call it cheese. Beyond cheesing just saying I'm just going to be somebody's vassal to protect me, you know, beyond doing stuff like that and just taking advantage of loopholes in the AI to not be attacked, this is going to be very, very tough. You know, even establishing alliances. Let's just see here. I don't think you're going to have any good relations with anybody. No. Shimazu are hostile, which makes sense, but even the Mori are untrusting. So, it's going to take some real finagling to survive as this force at their fall. But, you know, it's definitely possible. So yeah, I think that about covers it. That is the Otomo clan. I might do a follow-up video on them at some point down the road, discussing more how you can build them, because there are different ways to build some of the factions in this force. I might do that, and I'm also going to be doing a live stream as the Otomo here pretty soon. So if you guys haven't subbed to the channel, make sure you sub to the channel so you don't miss out on those videos coming down the road, and especially the live streams, of course. The live streams on this channel are always they're always pretty crazy. You know, I usually like to play clans like this at their fall to try to make something of them. But yeah, make sure you guys hit that like video if you enjoyed the video. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think of the video, and let me know what you'd like to see next. What clan would you like covered in this series? So yeah, I'll see you guys on the next one. Until then, take care.